I remember I was doing an album with Spike from the Choir Boys there, and he loved it there because it was next door to a pub. So.
Right, so Leeders Farm is in the process of closing. You're finishing up with the Darkness. Dan said that he doesn't want it to go to someone else.
Yeah.
How do you come to the decision to come back to Wales or come back to Rockfield?
Well, I'd been talking to Rockfield, and they'd been going through a really hard time as we were kind of really busy and kind of doing really well. And I developed masterclasses before that as well. I developed a whole kind of training and kind of team building thing, which involved into masterclasses, which had got a Young Entrepreneur Award for as well. Hasten to add, Jon.
Put that in your national record of achievement.
Yeah, it's in there at the top, and just above Bruce Springsteen, and so I developed these masterclasses. They were really successful, bringing us in good income. And so I'd been talking to Rockfield saying, you should do these masterclasses. This is something I've developed. It's really good money. I've got a format. It really works. And seeing that, I was like, no, I really want to come back. And I'd built up a whole new client base. And I had loads of albums lined up for that year and now nowhere to record them because Leeders Farm had closed down pretty quickly. Like Luke Morley from Thunder was doing the Union at that point, and I had this album lined up with him. We'd already done one at Leeders Farm with them guys, and he was like, we've got to do the next one. We go to Leeders Farm, and I was like, can't, it's just finished. And the Maker album, and bands like The Toy, and bands like River 68s and stuff like that, all these albums, and they all booked in to do it that year, but we had nowhere to do it. And I was like, I need to go back. I need to breathe life into the Coach House again. It can't have it like this. And the business is going to pick up and develop the masterclasses, talk to them, which they now do there from those initial meetings and from me implementing that really early on. As a way, and they already had it in their head they were going to do holiday lets, and they'd started doing them, and I'd been doing them at Leeders Farm as well. Times like Christmas and things like that, or when we were having a break and we were on holiday, we'd kind of, do holiday lets there. There's multiple incomes, so I introduced those masterclass ideas to them. And with the holiday lets then picked up and the masterclasses starting, and then I had a run of I was even at one point going to take over the studio and just rent the whole thing because I was then in there for a year, and then during this time the business picked up again and they were doing really well. A couple of big albums came their way and business was really good for them, which it has been ever since now. I mean, they're busier than ever now. So that was the decision. And also we'd had my daughter at that point, Honey. And it seemed silly if I was going to be busy working. We were already on the other side of the country when we had her, 5-hour drive away. It was we should be near family, near friends. We've got a daughter now, so the support of the family network and all that, the help with it, if I'm away, it'd be great. So the decision was made that we'd move back to Wales and I'd carry on working at Rockfield. Immediately missed having my own place, immediately, but Rockfield's a second home to me. I'd still been working there throughout my whole time at Leeders. When I couldn't get into Leeders, when there was a band, Band of Skulls or whatever were in, and I had another album, so they were in for quite a while, so I'd go to Rockfield and do my albums at Rockfield. So I was still using it regularly anyway, still, part of the furniture, part of the family. Because
I've had that. I remember that that feeling that when a studio closes, all of a sudden you're still getting inquiries, and obviously the emails are still working. So it's I remember that whole thing is right, people want to come record an album. Shit, where do I go? Yeah. Did you have a backup from Rockfield? Is there anywhere else you could thought about? Did you look at other studios?
Well, that was the thing. I was because I've had, obviously we'd built up a massive reputation in 5 years with Leeders Farm, and all the producer managers and the labels were still emailing me wanting to go to Leeders Farm. And so I had this constant stream on the email from inquiries, and even all the Norwich bands were like, well, what do you mean you're not here anymore? There's nowhere else to record around here. We want to record with you. So I had all this work with the Norfolk bands as well, and the other sessions and producer managers. And I was like, right, I need somewhere to work. But obviously Rockfield was starting to pick up, so I couldn't always get in there. So I was like, right, I need another residential studio that I can go to that has that same vibe. And I was looking around, and I stumbled across Red Kite Studios, owned by the legendary Martin Levan. And I went there and met him, and we hit it off. I mean, what an amazing guy. The guy is so talented, done so much in his life. Amazing to talk to. I love his kind of no-nonsense attitude. And he's kind of hidden away up in the mountains in the Brecon Beacons there in this amazing location with this amazing studio that he wants to hire out to people to come so we can have some quality time with some other people, but really he doesn't want to because he's like, I don't want people coming here and spoiling my peace and quiet. But it's an amazing place, and him and his wife are amazing human beings, and made me feel so welcome there. And I just loved it. And I ended up doing album after album, and it's where we first met, Jon.
It was. Well, it was. I remember, like, the job had gone out in, is it UK Music Jobs or Music Jobs?
Yeah.
For an assistant, and at the time I was running a studio in South Wales. Like, it's like basically, I think the job said like residential studios in South Wales, and my studio was a residential studio, nowhere near to level of Leeders Farm, like the experience and stuff. We had like a dorm room which slept 8 people, and I kind of realised very early on that's like, if anyone wants to sleep, that's not a good idea. Yeah. It's a bit like in Giant Wafer, I guess. We got that massive bedroom at the top.
Yeah.
And I just remember seeing the ad. I thought, well, I'm one of them, and then the other ones are like Rockfield, Red Kite, Giant. I knew all the studios like
Vale.
I thought, well, I remember my experience was like, I kind of felt like I'd gone as far as I could in that studio, and I wanted to learn off other people because I just literally come up and fudged my way through recording. It was like I was quite good at computers. I did demos.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of the downfall of people is producers and engineers I work with is when they come straight out of university and then they're just working in their own studio. They've never had that experience of how the workflow of producers and engineers who've maybe been doing it for 20, 30 years in a traditional way, the workflow, how things are supposed to be labelled, how things are supposed to be laid out, the workflow, the methods, the working with a band. They've just kind of learned how to kind of do it in a kind of semi-practical way in a university studio, but they're not really worked with. And I think it's great for people who've kind of been through that education system to go and work with other producers and engineers and find out how it's done, and then obviously implement your own ways and your own methods because they might be better and more suited to you, whatever. But I think it's a great way to really learn.
Yeah. So I remember that was one of the things I remember thinking is like, it's where I struggle, where it was like I think I'd gone as far as I could with it, and I was thinking, well, what can I do next? And it's like, right, I was just applying for real world. I applied to Solid State Logic. A job came up, but I had no other than running my own place, I had no real qualifications or skills as far as I thought. And so position came with you. I think Neve helped me with my cover letter. My name gave me an advantage because obviously John Constantine stands out straight away.
That's the best name in the world ever.
And then you said, I'll come down to I'm doing pre-production with a band in Red Kite. And I said, right, I'll be down tomorrow. Got lost.
You did actually, yeah. So did a lot of people.
Yeah, I got lost. It's really confusing, because obviously, Martin's place is obviously it's down a country road. It's not signposted because Martin doesn't want you to know it's there. And I think I drove to the 2 other holiday lets that he has, and I kind of went back and forth.
Yeah, we have a visitor. There's Ronnie.
The Ronnie.
Little Ron. Yeah, he's not quite Ken. He's not as good as Ken, but he's all right. No. He's all right.
He's not. He doesn't look like as much of a bastard as well.
I do remind him all the time that he's not as good as Ken. But
well, he hasn't learned the skills of how to kill chickens with stairs.
Go with his mind. Yeah, I'm just gonna let him out, Jon, and then we'll carry on. Wait, he wants to.
Oh, I know.
Come on in. You can keep that in, Jon.
Yeah, I think Josh and Joe were in one of the accommodations with their band.
Back in the day when I couldn't get enough assistants, I needed 3.
Yeah, that was trademark session, wasn't it? And I turned up, called you, Neil.
You did. Hi, Neil.
I just got completely flustered. You gave me a tour of Martin's studio. I was like, fucking hell, this is amazing.
Yeah.
It was like...
Yeah, it's such a great studio. And it's a similar thing in the fact that it's lots of natural light, countryside, that kind of thing. So yeah, it suited me. Loads of accommodation. The countryside, the peace and quiet, great equipment. I mean, as a control room, it's so well designed. The sound, the monitoring is amazing. So to work with somewhere with that good monitoring for the mixing and for tracking Yeah, it was a godsend. I just loved it there. I loved that those few years working there a lot. As you know, a backup to Rockfield, it was great. So yeah, I just needed that other place. You know, I just needed that kind of a bit more of that Leeders farm vibe in there for me as well. So I needed it.
Yeah, I remember the one thing, it was because it was in the middle of a valley, wasn't it? There was like one spot where the phone signal managed to get out, which is kind of looking straight down the valley. Everyone had to go and take their phone calls in a specific place.
Yeah. It's much better nowadays, but yeah, you had to walk to that little bit, stand there.
Yeah. So you're working out of these studios. You were mixing elsewhere.
So at that point, I had a kind of home studio. Then I had the studio in Tredegar, was kind of in the back room of a community centre. And I think I'm trying to think if that was first or then. And then I had one in like a business centre in Monmouth. Did you ever come to that?
Yeah, Brinefield was after.
So then the Monmouth one was after, was it? You didn't come to the community centre one, did you? It was cool because it was hardly ever disused really. So I could use the big hall, and it had a kitchen and toilets and everything. So a little lounge, and then we had the big hall, and then I was in the back. But I did most of my mixing and a few overdubs in there. I had 2 rooms, a recording area and a live room, which I cobbled together. Yeah. But when the big room wasn't in use, I think it was only used like 3 nights a week between like 7 and 9. So apart from that, I could use the big hall for recording. It had a garden and everything. It was out the way, so it didn't disturb anyone. Yeah, and I moved from there down to rented basically like office space in a business park, and built a studio in there, which I couldn't monitor too loudly during the day because there was all these businesses in there, and I was kind of like in the centre of it, which was like, it'd become a storeroom, but it was a giant office that had like 20 offices, and I was in there. But come 4 o'clock when everyone left, I could stay in there then and mix as loud as I want. I had this whole business park to myself, and would just stay there and mix. So I would kind of start work a bit later and maybe go in at 4 in the afternoon and kind of work till about 10 o'clock or something instead, do my mix in there.
Did Max come to the one up in Tredegar?
I'm not sure if he went to the one in Tredegar. I think he did. Maybe once. I remember I was doing an album with Spike from the Choir Boys there, and he loved it there because it was next door to a pub, so he could go to the pub most of the day, which was right next door. And we did an album, a Frankie Miller album there, which had full of legends like Luke Morley and Simon Kirk and Andy Fraser, Ronnie Wood, the Scottish rugby team, Bonnie Tyler, so all these people. A great album to work on with Spike. He was an interesting character, lovely man. And and then I think Max came towards the end, Max Rafferty from the Kooks, because we'd been working with him. He'd come to Leeders Farm, and then we'd carried on working together after that. We still work together now. And and then he used to come to the Monmouth one, I remember. And then I think it was you and Max who then...
me and Max have
from there to Rockfield. A room came up in Rockfield, and you and Max did all the prep, the painting, moved all the stuff out. Because I remember it was in the old. For those who don't know, I'm extremely, extremely allergic to horses, and I can't go anywhere near anything horsey, which is why I steer clear of Amanda Ward all the time. Severely allergic to Amanda Ward.
You walked in the first.
So I couldn't. It was in the old tack room, wasn't it? So I couldn't go in and clear it out because it was so dusty and full of horsehair.
It was old storeroom. It was just full of boxes, and we had to move all the boxes in that room out into the tack room next door. And you were fine in the box room, but then we took one step into the tack room.
And my eyes exploded. I couldn't breathe.
I can't go. It's like
so you did it, and then hoovered it all out, swept it, cleaned it all up. We installed it, and we installed a nice little studio, didn't we? Yeah.
Well, we also had to move. What did we have to do? We had to take some stuff out of the tack room. And then I remember like me and Max, we had to go and move some stuff into where they kept all the old tapes from the 60s. Yeah. And that was like a massive shock because these tapes from the 60s were like Dave Edmunds, I think there might have been Budgie or something in there. Yeah. And this storeroom was basically, it's, as you go into Rockfield, it's next to where the horses are kept. There's like a window or something you've got to climb over. You go through the horses' stables and go through a corridor. And it's just this open, exposed room. Yeah. And all these damp tapes. And you just like think, oh my, yeah. It's like, I don't even think baking these tapes, like putting them in the oven, like warming them up.
There's no hope.
And then I remember saying to Kings, if they're no good, why don't you check them out? He says, we can't check them out.
Yeah, they belong to labels.
Because what if someone needs them? Yeah. And it's like, because obviously that they're saying, it was like they're storing those tapes for the labels.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they didn't have the ownership of the rights.
Yeah,
So,
you wouldn't have been able to rescue the majority of them anyway. Maybe one or two. I mean, someone occasionally comes and digs in there and takes tapes away. You know.
yeah, I remember because I saw it. I went through it and I saw that there were tapes for Man.
Yeah.
And I'd known George because so Mickey Jones's son, George, I'd recorded up in Porthcawl.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw those tapes, I just went because he obviously the estate passed to him. He said, "George, you know there's tapes for Man there." So then I think he got in touch with Lisa and said, like, "I want to get them because it's for my dad.
Yeah.
It's like these are my dad's rights and stuff."
Yeah.
So I think he popped down and picked them up.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing like budgie tapes and stuff there. You just go in, it's like,
yeah, brilliant. So that was our little mix room, wasn't it, for a while there then?
And people from Rockfield used to pop in and have chats with you.
Yes. So I'd have a chair in the corner, and one by one throughout the day, they'd come in, Mand would come in, I'd hear how her day had been going, Lisa would pop in, Kingsley would pop in.
Yeah.
So...
Because I
enjoyed it though. I was chatting with her. I was a little break from the music, but kind of 6 hours working on music and 6 hours kind of chatting to those guys.
I think I've been working with you at this point for about a year.
Yeah.
I got to grips with Rockfield within that year, and then I think it was really handy because we just about moved that space, put you in that space, and I was just starting to work in-house. And because you were around, like, Nick, I got a problem.
Yeah, I could just nip over. I could come and sort it. Yeah, I could leave you on a session and not worry about it because I was there. Kingsley knew I was there. Kingsley loved having me on site because at 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday when they got a problem in the quadrangle and there's no assistant on the session, then I could go over and sort it out for them. Brian was in the corner. And I was in, you know what I'm like. I'm there every day working day and night.
Yeah.
So I was always there. Yeah, so it was great for the studios to have me on board. But then we didn't need that anymore, John, because another opportunity came along.
No. So there was a studio in Vale. It was actually the first session I worked with you. So I came to you doing pre-production of trademarks, which we mentioned on episode 1.
Yeah.
And then it was I was coming to Rockfield for a day.
Yeah.
Do a trial session. I think I bought like one pair of clothes or 2 pairs of clothes or something. He said, "Oh, do you want to stay?" I was like, "Okay, yeah. Okay, I'll stay." Yeah. And then next day he's like, "Oh, do you want to come to stay on?" It's like, "Yeah, I'm not doing anything. I'll carry on." And on the third day, I think I've got to go up because my studio was closed. I think I was in the process of closing down my studio, and I needed to find another place.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, on Instagram, I think, or Facebook or something, I think Ramesh had posted up a post about a studio up in Ebbw that he just gone, "So it looks amazing. We'd be looking to do some training video, like training courses or something up there." So I just got in touch with the Ebbw Institute and just said, "Oh, can I just come have a look around?" And arranged it all, and I said, "Oh, Nick, I can't do that. I'm going to see another studio." And then there was no one there when I arrived. I'd arranged to meet someone. That person thought it was the next day. So then I think it was Sam actually showed me around the studio, and it's like, you just walk in, it's like, this place is really, really well kitted out. It's amazing, but it smells very much of damp. I don't think it's been opened or used in a while.
And it looks like a classroom.
And I think about a year later they approached, I think, was it Steve from Novocaine?
Yes, who we mentioned before, the band I used to record demos for in the early days.
I think he knew you were in the area.
Yeah, so he knew that I'd moved up into the valleys, and so he'd put my name forward and said they should get in touch with me because the studio was sat there empty, wasn't it? There was no one.
Yeah.
There was a couple of people coming in now and again, but they didn't have anyone to run it. They had no one who knew how to use it or knew how to run it, or anyone with clients. And the problem with a studio in that area is there's no clients in that area. So you need someone who's got clients.
Yeah. And so they approached you and we kind of went and had a look at it. And I think it was a month or so just going back and forth. I'd just pop up and go, right, what have we got? What's the inventory?
Yeah.
How does everything work?
Yeah.
How can we get our stuff in?
Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of it didn't work, John. We soon found out.
No, there's a lot of the speakers. Oh yeah, the main speakers, right? Like the way they got EDAC connectors, so like specific connectors that are really good because like they don't really fall apart and you have 16 on them. And I think they managed to wire the main speakers out of phase. So everything's like you kind of press play, it's like
yeah, and it was a shame. A lot of the outboard wasn't really pro quality, so it was not really usable. And then the stuff that was pro quality wasn't really working. So it was, and the desk needed a lot of love, a lot of work, a lot of maintenance. So we set about it. But it was a great space in a great building, a proper studio, and of course the expense of the design, the soundproofing, the acoustics, the electrics, the air conditioning, all those massive expenses had all been grant funded and were done. So we had a kind of blank canvas, didn't we, to create a creative space, because it looked like a really bad classroom kind of. It was so well, it was kind of so well done in terms of the install of the floors and the aircon and the kind of electrics and the layout and stuff, and the acoustics were great, but the actual design was like atrocious, and actually the functionality of the studio and the workflow of the studio was pretty bad.
It's that idea. It was like, I think it had been designed by someone who had another studio and he did a mirror image of his place. Yeah,
it just doesn't. It just didn't work as it was. So we've made the most of it, and turned it into a really vibey, great space. And we've had the opportunity to make some big records in there as well. Big clients as well as local bands and small bands and unsigned bands. And we've had other producers coming in, and again we set about and it took off pretty quick. Producers like Norton coming in, and
I was working with him in Rockfield, and I just it was at the time where I think their air conditioning. Did they have air conditioning?
It went off for a little bit. It went off at one point. Yeah.
The air conditioning packed in at one point, and I think I was back and forth in the studio. So we got another place up the road, and then we were trying to get him to show. And it was like he was waiting for a session to get confirmed, and then I think it fell through. And then there was another band didn't have the budget to go to a big place, so Gil just thought, I'd love to come try this place. Yeah, so we had a band called Psycho Comedy. That's
right. Yeah, we had nice accommodation, everything. 5-bed townhouse, really nice, and. Yeah. I mean, what other producers came in at that point? We had quite a few different producers coming in, didn't we? Gethin Pearson.
Yeah, Gethin Pearson. Yeah. We had Richard Jackson. So Richard Jackson did a lot of the Pretty Vicious stuff. We were literally at a point of finishing the album when the band got new management. They looked at the deal that they had, because they'd been given an advance. There was a massive bidding war. They did really well. Obviously, there was a massive buzz about on the first records. I think Cave Song was done in the studio before we arrived, and then the label had gone around and gone, right, we want you to sound like this, and so they go and work with a certain producer. They sound exactly like they were, because they were really good musicians. And they said, no, we want it to sound a bit more like mellow. So they go with another producer and say, what we really want is we want it to be a bit like 90s Britpoppy, so we'll put you in with Owen Morris. And obviously, I think
everybody
the feedback from talking to the band I think the feedback from the band was the budget. I think Owen might still be working on 90s budgets. I don't really know, but they were going to I think they'd gone to ICP Studios in Belgium, and I think Bryn had just one of the band's dads was looking basically spent. It was absolutely exhausted because he had to kind of keep Owen on straight and narrow to get the stuff recorded, because obviously they're trying on time. And I think the label, they got a couple of the songs out. I think some of them sounded amazing. I think one of the songs came out. And the label just turned around to him and said, to be honest with you guys, we're a bit disappointed. We thought we'd have more stuff by now. And he said, well, it's not us. We can go into the original studio and just smash out a couple of tracks. Yeah. So I got called in with Rich as the engineer, and we did, I think, 5 songs in a week or 4 songs in a week. And there was going to be 4 sessions, split like that, almost broken up. So we'd done the first 2, and there was that last one, the last session to complete the album. And new manager comes in and just goes, that we've blown through 6 figures here in advance. Whatever happens to this record, the likelihood is we're going to get dropped if this gets released, so we need to get out now. Yeah. So he pulled the plug, and it was I think it was the right decision to do, really, because obviously. Yeah, but they spent a lot of time there in the studio, didn't they? Yeah, and after that, I think new management, Mick, he kind of had people that he wanted to go and kind of approach to, and they spoke to Big Machine, and they said, what we'd like to hear is we'd like to hear some demos we'd like to hear demos of songs that you haven't recorded, that haven't been recorded, anything that the label have touched. So we want to hear some songs you haven't done. They came in, and I think the first song we recorded was what could have been. It's called Something Else, and he was they've still got songs, they're still really good. So it was just literally me and them in the studio. The demos went off, and then they got signed to Big Machine for the album to get released. And then I think who did the album in the end? Dan Austin. And then it was produced by Dan Austin. I think they went to Mono to do it. They're in and out all the time.
And we've had no end of clients, and it's a great mix room, isn't it? The monitoring in Leeders Vale is really good.
The acoustics and recording as well, just
made some great records there. And we're still going strong in there, Jon. And
Yeah.
So here we are,
Back.
and we're now going to start a new chapter, John, after Leeders Vale.
Yeah.
So
And that was
we can hear all about that in our next episode.